I am continuing my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a bit as I move along. So we pick this up again in 2 Chronicles. We will be reading chapter 31. In chapter 30, we read of the great Passover held by Hezekiah, where he invited both the northern and southern kingdoms to come and join him. And it had such a great multitude, and they were doing such great things, that they decided to have a second Passover. And so instead of a 1-week feast, they had a 2-week feast. This is the beginning of Hezekiah's religious reforms. He has already cleansed the temple, rededicated it, re-sanctified the priests, and we are moving into the religious reforms. Great time. Now, chapter 31. Faithful portion of Israel overthrow false worship among them. People pay tithes and offerings. Levites administer in temporal matters. Hezekiah serves faithfully. Now when all this was finished, all Israel that were present went out to the cities of Judah, and brake the images in pieces, and cut down the groves, and threw down the high places and the altars out of all Judah and Benjamin, in Ephraim also and Manasseh, until they had utterly destroyed them all. Then all the children of Israel returned, every man to his possession, and to their own cities. In 2 Kings, talked about how Hezekiah had destroyed all the high places and destroyed the brazen serpent and all the cleansing of idol worship. Now we get a little more detail. It was under his reign, it was during his reign that all this happened, but it wasn't just Hezekiah ordering this. It was after this feast, after this grand Passover. The people were so enthusiastic, so zealous for God. They were feeling the Spirit so strongly that they left this Passover and went throughout the entire land and destroyed all of the high places, both in Judah and in Israel. Now, I don't think they destroyed everything in Israel, because there were a lot of people who didn't come to the feast. But when they returned to Israel, they destroyed all the high places among themselves. All the faithful got rid of all their idols. Even in Israel, they destroyed them all. Those who weren't faithful, those who had not attended the Passover, likely kept their idols. But those who had attended this Passover, they returned spiritually invigorated and completely destroyed all idol worship among themselves. That is a powerful thing. But let us continue verse 2. And Hezekiah appointed the courses of the priests and the Levites after their courses, every man according to his service. The priests and Levites for burnt offerings and for peace offerings, to minister and to give thanks and to praise in the gates of the tents of the Lord. He appointed also the king's portion of his substance for the burnt offerings, to wit, for the morning and evening burnt offerings, and the burnt offerings for the Sabbaths and for the new moons and for the set feasts, as it is written in the law of the Lord. Moreover, he commanded the people that dwelt in Jerusalem to give the portion of the priests and the Levites, that they might be encouraged in the law of the Lord. Hezekiah is reestablishing the proper order set up, probably going back to David, with the rotation of priests and Levites doing the sacrifices in the temple. He also sets up, this is the king's portion, this is what we're going to give to the priests, remember, there was a daily sacrifice, and then there was a special sacrifice on the Sabbath and on the new moons. And Hezekiah said, we're going to provide this. The king's house provides all of these sacrifices. And then he calls on Jerusalem to pay their tithing, to give the portion of the priests, so that the priests don't need to go out and make their own money. They don't need to support themselves. They can focus on the sacrifices. They can focus on doing the work. Verse 5. And as soon as the commandment came abroad, the children of Israel brought in abundance the first fruits of corn, wine, and oil, and honey, and of all the increase of the field, and the tithe of all things brought they in abundantly. And concerning the children of Israel and Judah that dwelt in the cities of Judah, they also brought in the tithe of oxen and sheep, and the tithe of holy things which were consecrated unto the Lord their God, and laid them by heaps. In the 3rd month they began to lay the foundation of the heaps, and finished them in the 7th month. And when Hezekiah and the princes came and saw the heaps, they blessed the Lord and his people, Israel. Then Hezekiah questioned with the priests and Levites concerning the heaps. And Azariah, the chief priest of the house of Zadok, answered him and said, Since the people began to bring the offerings into the house of the Lord, we have had enough to eat, and have left plenty. For the Lord hath blessed his people, and that which is left is this great store. So the people are very liberal in giving and paying their tithing. Hezekiah sends out the call for people to pay their tithing, and everybody sends in their tithes. And apparently there's still a lot of people of Israel who are staying in Judah, and they're also paying their tithing and sending it to the priests. But there's too much. The priests don't need it all. So what do? They build storehouses. This is what they mean by heaps. This is not just a big pile of stuff. They built storehouses, and they filled it with all the excess. And when Hezekiah comes down to see, and he sees all these storehouses, he asks the priest, what's all this? And the head priest, Azariah, he said, well, you told them to start paying their tithing, and they paid so much, we're good. We don't need this. This is the extra. So verse 11. Then Hezekiah commanded to prepare chambers in the house of the Lord, and they prepared them, and brought in the offerings and the tithes and the dedicated things faithfully, over which Conaniah the Levite was ruler, and Shimei his brother was the next, and Jehiel, and Azariah, and Nahath, and Asahel, and Jeremoth, and Jozabad, and Eliel, and Ismachiah, and Mahath, and Benaiah were overseers under the hand of Conaniah and Shemaiah his brother, at the commandment of Hezekiah the king, and Azariah the ruler of the house of God, and Kor the son of Imnah the Levite, the porter toward the east, was over the free will offerings of the Lord, to distribute the oblations of the Lord and the most holy things. And next him were Eden, and Miniamin, and Jeshua, and Shemaiah, as Amariah, and Shechaniah in the cities of the priests in their set office, to give to their brethren by courses, as well to the great as to the small. Beside their genealogy of males from 3 years old and upward, even unto every one that entereth into the house of the Lord, his daily portion for their service and their charges according to their courses, both to the genealogy of the priests by the house of their fathers, and the Levites from 20 years old and upward in their charges by their courses, and to the genealogy of all their little ones, their wives, and their sons, and their daughters, through all the congregation, for in their set office they sanctified themselves in holiness. Also the sons of Aaron, the priests, which were in the fields of the suburbs of their cities, in every several city, the men that were expressed by name, to give portions to all the males among the priests, and to all that were reckoned by genealogies among the Levites. And this is interesting here. What I'm pretty sure this is saying is that all the excess, so the stuff was brought in for the use of the priests at the temple, so that they could be supported while doing their work. But remember, the priests are in a rotation. They're there for 1 month, and then the next priest comes in for 1 month. But there's so much being donated that there's more than is needed for each rotation in Jerusalem. And so they're sending all the excess out to all the cities of the Levites to be distributed among all the families of Levi, which is, according to the law of Moses, that the tithes were supposed to go to the Levites. So they're organizing this, saying, okay, we got all the excess, we're going to ship it all out, so that all the families of Levi get their due portion of the donations, because that's what they're supposed to be getting. It's very interesting. Let's finish this verse 20. And thus did Hezekiah throughout all Judah, and wrought that which was good and right and truth before the Lord his God. And in every work that he began in the service of the house of God, and in the law, and in the commandments, to seek his God, he did it